Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us for the applicant webinar for the Small Grants Fund 2023 grant cycle. During today's webinar, we will be providing an overview of the Small Grants Fund and the 2023 application process, as well as a brief demo of the Global Forest Watch platform. At the end of the presentation, we will also have time for questions. A recording of this webinar will also be sent via email to everyone in the coming days, as well as posted on the Small Grants Fund webpage. If you have any questions, please enter them through the Q&A button, and we will answer them at the end of the presentation. And if you are having any technical difficulties, please let us know through the Q&A button as well. So first, we just wanted to start off with some quick introductions. So my name is Allie Weber, and I am the Small Grants Fund Coordinator for Global Forest Watch. I'm joined today by my colleagues Isabella and Jessica, who you will hear from a bit later in the presentation. So for today's agenda, we will start with a brief overview of Global Forest Watch and the Small Grants Fund. We will then have a short demo of the GFW platform. That will then be followed by an overview of the Small Grants Fund eligibility requirements and application process. And then, as I mentioned before, at the end, we will have time for questions. Next slide, please. So we wanted to start off with a little bit of background on Global Forest Watch for those who might not be as familiar. Global Forest Watch, also referred to as GFW, is an initiative housed at World Resources Institute, which is an international environmental research organization. Global Forest Watch offers an integrated, openly accessible suite of tools designed to increase knowledge and transparency about forest change and mobilize action. By harnessing cutting-edge technology, GFW allows anyone to access near real-time information about where and how forests are changing around the world. GFW is used by a variety of stakeholders, such as the private sector to reduce deforestation in supply chains, and by civil society to identify forest threats and mobilize action. Next slide, please. There are several deforestation alert systems available on GFW, which offer near real-time data on forest disturbance. These alerts help forest protectors to quickly identify and respond to deforestation. So as you'll see in this graphic, satellites circling the Earth are used to capture images and collect data. Computers then process the data to identify where forest disturbance was detected, which is then marked with a pink pixel. These pixels are then shared with relevant audiences through the GFW tools, providing an early indication of where deforestation may be occurring so that law enforcement officers, local communities, advocacy organizations, and other responders can take targeted action. Next slide, please. Here's an example of what you can see on the GFW platform. The pink pixels indicate where forest disturbance was detected by satellites. In this case, showing a road being developed and leading to an area of clearing. By notifying users of this forest change in near real time, the alerts act as an early warning system for deforestation. So now we'll turn to a little bit about the Small Grants Fund. So the Small Grants Fund recognizes that civil society organizations operating in and around forested areas are some of the most effective champions of forest conservation and management. However, they frequently lack the resources and knowledge of how to incorporate the latest forest monitoring technology into their research, advocacy, and fieldwork. The objective of the Small Grants Fund is to build the capacity of civil society organizations who are actively monitoring forests to effectively use GFW tools and data to reduce illegal or unplanned deforestation. So we support projects that are translating data into action. applying GFW to overcome challenges in protecting the world's forests. So as for the timeline and funding, we award grants between $10,000 and $40,000 US, and projects run for 1 year. So for the 2023 grant cycle, projects will run from February 1st, 2023 through January 31st, 2024. And we will be selecting about 10 to 12 projects. In addition to the financial assistance that you receive as a Small Grants Fund recipient, there are also several other benefits, including technical assistance and training throughout your project. Small Grants Fund recipients also become part of a network of organizations and receive benefits that extend beyond the lifetime of their grant. So this includes opportunities to connect with others in the GFW network, invitations to GFW events, opportunities to test and provide feedback on new GFW features, and the potential to be featured in WRI communications materials. We are going to be sharing more about the specific eligibility requirements and application process later in the presentation. But first, I'm going to pass it to Isabella to provide a short demo of the Global Forest Watch platform.
Global Forest Watch, also known as GFW, offers the latest data and cutting-edge technology to empower people everywhere to better manage, protect, and restore forest landscapes by providing access to visualize and analyze spatial data that show when and where the world's forests are changing. This includes GFW's interactive map, which allows you to explore hundreds of spatial data sets, including near real-time deforestation fire alerts. Most people start here. Forest Watcher mobile app is for those who are actively monitoring and managing forests. Forest Watcher helps you take GFW data offline and to the field. Map Builder is for those who want their own online mapping and monitoring system. Map Builder allows you to combine GFW data with your own data to build highly customized forest monitoring applications. And lastly, GFW Pro is for companies, banks, and anyone else seeking to monitor forests across a portfolio of locations. GFW Pro enables you to securely manage deforestation risks in commodity supply chains. This tutorial will demo the key features of GFW's map and dashboards, located here, which are commonly used to identify where forest change is occurring, investigate that change with informative data and satellite imagery, and identify trends over time. GFW's map features hundreds of data sets that cover the globe. When you first access the map, these 3 data sets will automatically be activated, including tree cover loss, tree cover gain, and tree cover. You can identify which color is associated with each data set on the legend, as well as what years the data covers. This is important to note because the years that one data set covers may differ from another data set. I'm going to focus on tree cover loss for now and turn off the tree cover gain and tree cover data set. Now, if you look at the map, you can see what the color indicates. For instance, if we zoom into Brazil, we can see where tree cover loss has occurred by spotting the pink areas on the map. You can also toggle with the time frame for tree cover loss data and watch it change over time by pressing play. To learn more about data sets, you can click on the eye icon to the right of the data set's name. Here, you'll find more information about the coverage, source, cautions, and more. From these characters, you can also toggle with the data layer's opacity to make it more or less transparent. Or you can use this button to remove the layer. Some other functions on the map include the ability to show only the map, to share or embed the map view, or take a tour of the various map features. On the left side of the map, we categorize datasets into 5 topics, including forest change, land cover, land use, climate, and biodiversity. By clicking on each topic, you can view the datasets we offer and see which are more relevant to you. The search tool is also useful for quickly finding area, location, or dataset on the map. Under Forest Change in the data menu on the left, you can find our alert datasets, including the new integrated alert layer. This new layer combines 3 previously separate alert systems, including GLAD-L, GLAD-S2, and RAD alerts. Each of these individual layers cover different areas and are updated at different time intervals, and you can read more about this in the metadata or information button. In the legend panel, you can select an individual alert system if you prefer, which I'll demonstrate now. There may be many reasons why you prefer one of these individual alert systems. You prefer a single methodology, one methodology over another, or one may be a more trusted source for your work. A new feature is also confidence levels. Note that if you do select a single alert system, you will see the 3rd category of confidence drop, as it will then be impossible to see loss detected by more than one system. We can also compare where they are located with other datasets, such as concessions data and protected areas. From here, we can take initial steps to investigate the alerts by activating the integrated alerts layer. This satellite imagery provides an idea of what the forested area looks like and how it has changed over time. I can zoom in an area by using my mouse or the zoom in, zoom out icon. We can also change the base map, for instance, to planet base map, which is available for the tropics to gain a clear visualization of the area with a 5-meter resolution. Within the base map tool, you can also adjust the map settings, such as political boundaries, labels, and roads. I'm going to now perform an analysis with the integrated alert system now activated. Let's look at Brazil. If we wanted to analyze the data of a certain region of Brazil as a whole, we can click onto the area on the map and the analysis will automatically occur. On the analysis function on the map, you can first choose the map's boundaries. From there are a few approaches to analyze the data on the map. Let's start with drawing a shape. To draw the shapefile, you can easily place dots and connect them on the map. Once your shape is fully connected, the analysis will occur. I'll demonstrate this now. As you can see, the shape will then appear on the map and the analysis will be performed. Alternatively, you can also upload a shapefile by selecting a file from your computer. Once your analysis is complete, you have the option to save the area to your MyGFW account and subscribe to the data in the region of your analysis, meaning that you will receive email notifications with either monthly summaries for your area or email notifications whenever alerts appear, or both. If you choose Save the Area, it will then appear in the MyGFW tab. I can download these analysis results by saving this area and downloading stats through this button. I'm currently logged into my GFW account. If I save the area, I can opt to receive alerts not just for potential deforestation, but also for fire alerts. I'll demonstrate this now. As you'll see, notification emails will be sent whenever new forest change or fires are detected. And if you receive these emails in the past, you'll see that new emails will note how much area was affected by forest change or fires, as opposed to the count of alert pixels. You can also explore this area further on the dashboard. As you can see, the global dashboard offers the ability to view clear visualizations of the data, where you can generate a dashboard for any country, region, or subregion. You can easily manage the data that you view by clicking into the Settings tab on the right-hand corner of each widget. You can also download and share the data display on the dashboard. Lastly, you can navigate from the global dashboard to your custom dashboard based on your area of interest. To learn more about how to use GFW's map and dashboard, as well as other tools, you can access the Help Center. The Help Center offers up-to-date tutorials, frequently asked questions, and other training materials designed to guide you through our tools and data. I hope this demo helped provide you with a foundation of how GFW's map and dashboards work and how they can be applied to your work. Global Forest Watch.
Okay, now that we've shared that brief demo of Global Forest Watch, we are going to turn to more specifics about eligibility requirements and the application process. And I've seen that we've had a few questions come in about that, so hopefully this section of the presentation will answer many of those questions. So for the 2023 grant cycle, we have several eligibility requirements, which are detailed in the Guidelines for Applicants document. While we are going to provide an overview here, please be sure to carefully read the full guidelines for applicants before applying. So for organizational eligibility requirements, we are looking for organizations that are nonprofit and non-governmental with an annual budget greater than $50,000 US. You will also need to pass WRI's organizational risk assessment process, which finalists will be required to complete once they are provisionally selected. As part of this organizational assessment, you are required to have a computerized financial system for tracking and recording expenses and be able to provide your most recent audit or financial statements listed here from the previous 2 years. And finally, you will need at least one project point person with professional working proficiency in English to submit the organizational assessment, grant reports, and communicate regularly with WRI staff. Next slide, please. In addition to the organizational eligibility requirements, there are also a few things we wanted to highlight here that we are looking for in proposals. So we are looking for projects that have a demonstrated commitment to forest monitoring and sustainable forest management, and can clearly articulate how GFW tools will be a key component in their strategy to reduce deforestation. Additionally, we are looking for projects that are likely to attain meaningful outcomes leading to decreased deforestation and will have a lasting impact, with project stakeholders continuing to use GFW to support their forest monitoring work after the project's life cycle. If you're interested in more information on our project requirements and selection criteria, please see the guidelines for applicants. Next slide, please. It is also important to note that we do have some geographic eligibility requirements as well. The countries listed here on this screen are the countries that are eligible for the 2023 grant cycle. Please note that your organization does not necessarily need to be registered in one of these countries, but your project must be taking place in one or more of these countries. So now a little bit about the process and timeline for the 2023 grant cycle. So applications are due by August 1st, 2022. And following that application deadline, the review committee will be reviewing applications throughout August and September. After the committee review, finalists may be contacted in early October for a brief interview or be asked to respond to follow-up questions over email. Following the interviews, the finalists will be provisionally selected. They will then complete the organizational assessment process, and if they pass the organizational assessment, we will then move forward with the subgrant agreement. And as I mentioned before, the project implementation period will begin in February of 2023 and end in January 2024. Next slide, please. So to give you an idea of the types of projects we support, we wanted to share a few examples of past and current Small Grants Fund projects. So first, we have Code for Africa, who is a former Small Grants Fund recipient. They partnered with 2 journalism organizations to train 12 environmental journalism fellows to use GFW to investigate deforestation and environmental issues in the Congo Basin. The fellows then published 12 data-driven stories in collaboration with 15 media partners. Second, we have Haka, who is a former and current Small Grants Fund recipient, and their work has focused on training law enforcement on the use of GFW to help build their capacity to quickly identify, investigate, and take action against forest threats in Indonesia. And finally, Poppy, who is a former Small Grants Fund recipient who worked with an indigenous organization in the western region of Paraguay to develop and implement a participatory forest monitoring system to reduce deforestation and forest fires in indigenous lands. They also developed a deforestation complaints dashboard, which allows users to access data on deforestation complaints and the response from authorities. These are just a few examples of how Small Grants Fund recipients have used tools, and you can find information on all of our past and current projects on our website, which we encourage you to check out. Next slide, please. There are some questions that we frequently get asked about the Small Grants Fund eligibility and application process, so we wanted to address a few of them here. We also strongly encourage you to check out the full list of frequently asked questions, which is linked here on this slide. One question we wanted to address is if previous Small Grants Fund applicants are eligible to apply. And the answer is yes, as long as they meet the 2023 eligibility requirements outlined in the guidelines for applicants. So please be sure to review those if you are interested in applying. Another question is if you can apply to the Small Grants Fund if you are seeking funding for a component of a larger project. Yes, we definitely encourage applications that can demonstrate how GFW will contribute to existing work, as long as your project proposal for the Small Grants Fund meets our geographic and eligibility requirements that we discussed earlier. The third question here is if the Small Grants Fund application can be filled out in languages other than English. And unfortunately, at this time, we are only able to accept applications in English. Please also note that if you are selected, you will need to complete the organizational assessment and all grant reports in English as well. And finally, we sometimes receive questions about the requirement for the computerized financial system we mentioned earlier, and if Excel is acceptable. If you use Excel, you may still apply, but we do strongly prefer candidates who use professional accounting software, as this is one of the things that factors into the organizational risk assessment that finalists are required to pass. Hopefully this helps answer some of the questions you may have had, but if you have any additional questions that we have not covered yet, we will still have a Q&A at the end of the presentation. But before we move into the Q&A, we are going to provide a brief walkthrough of the application platform that you will use to apply. So to apply, please visit the Small Grants Fund webpage shown here, and we also have the link at the top of the slide. And here you can view the guidelines for applicants, frequently asked questions, and a recording of this webinar, which we will be uploading in the coming days. To access the application, click on the green link that says you can apply here. This will take you to the online application platform called SurveyMonkey Apply. Next slide, please. This is the application homepage on the SurveyMonkey Apply site. To start an application, click on Apply. If you have already started your application, you will click Log In the top right-hand corner. Next slide. Once you click Apply, you will be prompted to name your application. Please enter the name of your organization. Next slide, please. You will then be prompted to create an account or log into your existing account. If you do not already have a SurveyMonkey Apply account, you will need to create one, as shown here. Next slide. And if you already have a SurveyMonkey Apply account, you can log in by entering your email and password on this screen. Next slide. Once you have logged in or created your account, you will see the 2023 Small Grants Fund application. Click the More button to access the application. You will then need to check eligibility, where you will be asked to confirm that your organization is a nonprofit. After clicking Yes, you will then be able to create your application and will be taken to the application dashboard. Here you will see the list of the tasks. The 3 tasks that are required are the application form, uploading your project budget, and uploading your project log frame. The rest of the tasks are optional. To fill out the application form, you will click on the 2023 Small Grants Fund application task, and you will see this form. Once you have completed all pages of the application, you will click Mark as Complete at the bottom of the page. For the project budget and log frame tasks, you will be asked to download an Excel template, fill it out, and then upload it to the platform by clicking Attach File. Once uploaded, you will click Mark as Complete. You will see a green check mark next to each task that you have marked as complete. Once the 3 required tasks have green check marks, the Submit button will turn green. Please note that even if your tasks have the green check marks, your application is not officially submitted until you click Submit. Once you have submitted your application, you will see this screen. Here, you may view or download a copy of your application as indicated with the arrows. So once you've reached this screen, you are done with the submission process. And if you have any questions about the application platform as you are moving through the process, please send an email to gfwfund@wri.org, and we are happy to assist. So that concludes the presentation portion of this webinar, and I will now pass it to Isabella to move into the Q&A.
Thanks, Allie. We're going to start the Q&A portion of the webinar now. So we already started receiving some questions in the chat, but if you have any questions, please use the Q&A button at the bottom of the screen. We have a question regarding, will the session also cover the Tech Fellowship? Jessica, would you like to take this one on?
Sure. Unfortunately, due to the pandemic and related travel restrictions, the Tech Fellowship is currently on hold. Part of the Tech Fellowship is bringing fellows to DC to participate in a week-long tech camp, and then also join the Global Forest Watch Summit, which is a convening of people active in the forest monitoring community. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to hold the summit, which we normally hold every 2 years, but we are cautiously optimistic that we will be able to do so in 2023. So keep your eye out for more news about that.
Great, thanks, Jessica. We've also received some additional questions regarding eligibility, We have two actually, one related to, is it possible to apply from Ethiopia, as well as if it's possible, during this grant cycle, I couldn't find, Myanmar, is there a plan to add Myanmar for next round? Allie, would you like to take this one?
Sure. So I think both those questions are around the eligible countries list. So like we mentioned before, your organization does not necessarily have to be registered in one of the countries on that list, but your project must be taking place in one or more of those countries. And unfortunately, if your project's country is not included on that list, then your project is unfortunately not eligible for the 2023 grant cycle. However, we do still encourage you to engage with GFW, as all of the tools are available to anyone. So in the Help Center on the GFW website, you can find many helpful guides and webinars about how to use our tools and data in your work, as well as stay updated on GFW events and other ways you can engage with us. And as for the question about if other countries may be added in the future, each grant cycle, we release a guidelines for applicants document that lists the countries that are eligible for that particular grant cycle. So we do encourage you to check back when our next grant cycle opens to see that list of priority countries.
Great, thanks, Allie. We're seeing a few more questions. We have one regarding, are there any guidelines on overheads or salaries? Allie, would you like to take this question on as well?
Sure. So there is no explicit ceiling for specific budget line items, but we do ask that all costs are well justified in the budget detail column of the provided budget template in the application. So there is a template we will use, like we mentioned, and in the last column, you will provide a justification for each budget item. Please note that there are some formulas that are in that budget template that should help automatically calculate some of the line items, and we will flag that for the G&A expenses, or the indirect costs rate, there is a formula that will help you calculate that. So that is 10% of certain direct costs, not all the direct costs. So please just be mindful when you're filling out the budget template to make sure that you aren't deleting that formula, which will automatically calculate the indirect cost rate, unless you have a NICRA, and then you will fill that in the budget template there.
Great. Thanks so much, Allie. We also have a question regarding, is there any budget template required for this grant cycle? I'll hand that one over to Allie.
Yes, there is a budget template like we mentioned, and that is available when you go to the task on the SurveyMonkey Apply site, the task that says upload project budget. You will see in the instructions, there is a link to download the project budget template. So you will download that as an Excel file, fill it out, and then upload it back to SurveyMonkey Apply.
Thanks, Allie. We also have a question from Zara. She says, second, one of the protected forests in Asia is not detected in the selection section of the protection area in the GFW website. This is Mauritius protected forests in South Kalimantan. What should I do then? Jessica, would you like to answer this question?
Sure, thanks for the question. I believe what you're asking is if you look at the layers, data layers that are already on Global Forest Watch related to land use and other things that provide context to the tree cover change data, such as the protected areas layer, what to do if the protected area, for example, or other area that you're interested in is not included within that data set. In that case, you have two other options in order to analyze that area. One, in the analysis tab on the platform, you can zoom into the area that you're interested in and roughly draw a shape around that area. And then you can analyze tree cover change or alerts or carbon flux within that area You can also save that area to your dashboard if you would like to be able to refer to it later. Another option is if you have a shape file or other GIS file for that area, then you can, through the analysis tab, also choose to upload it to the platform, and then you will be able to analyze it.
Great. Thanks so much, Jessica. We also have another question regarding, you showed some examples of previous funded projects, but could give more details into what, could you give more details what you're looking for, or maybe give examples of unsuccessful projects? I'll also hand this one over to Jessica.
Sure. So the committee looks across different range of diverse criteria when evaluating the applications. So looking at relevance of the application to the focus of the Small Grants Fund. So how to use forest monitoring data for action, as Ellie described, for forest management, law enforcement, campaigning, etc. Also the feasibility of the project, given the amount of budget available, the time frame, which is 12 months for the project. Does it seem reasonable that the things that you're proposing could be achieved, given the experience of the organization and the context in which you're working? The potential for impact. So, what do we think the eventual impact that we're hoping to see, which is avoided deforestation, reduction in deforestation, which different projects will propose different ways to get there, but that's really what we're looking for, is that information into action. So how is the inclusion of the forest monitoring technology going to help your organization achieve those goals? And finally, around the sustainability of the project. So even after your Small Grants Funds project ends after 1 year, how will this project continue on? So most of the successful applicants already are engaged in forest monitoring. They're not starting up a new project, or this isn't something that's brand new for the organization. Typically, they already have a mandate to monitor forests. But the proposal shows how, with a little bit of influx of funding and also technical support from Global Forest Watch and WRA staff, as well as others within the network, can help organizations to be successful in applying or integrating that technology into their existing forest monitoring practices.
Great, thanks, Jessica. We also have a question regarding if two organizations can partner in an application. Allie, would you like to take this one?
Sure. So funding can only be granted to one organization per application. So one organization will need to be the organization that applies, and then also that would be the organization that we have the sub-grant agreement with. However, we definitely encourage you to partner with other organizations to carry out your project. And in the application, you'll see that there's a place where we ask you to list any partners that you plan on working with and your relationship with them and what their role will be in the project. So certainly we encourage you to partner with other organizations, but as for the application process and sub-grant process, that would be just to one organization.
Thanks, Allie. We also have a question from someone from Mexico. There are many risks in this work of protecting forests. How is the identity of those who upload information to the platform protected? Greetings from Mexico. Jessica, would you like to take on this question?
Sure, and thanks. Yes, that's a very important question to ask. The Global Forest Watch platform that Isabella showed in the demo, the only data or information that could be potentially collected through that is what I mentioned earlier. It's possible for users to be able to upload shape files of their area. And that information is done through a secure process. Users create their own login with your password. So only you or those who have access to that can look at those areas. when you save an area, either through uploading a shapefile, selecting a shape that's already included in one of the data sets on Global Forest Watch, or by drawing an area, you can choose to make that area public. And when you save that area, there will be a toggle, or you can edit it later to designate that area as public. That would permit you to use the link sharing feature within the site. So if you wanted to show somebody else the area that you're looking at and what the tree cover change dynamics were in that area, you would be able to do that. But if you don't mark it as private, then don't mark it as public, then no one else will be able to see it. The Forest Watcher mobile application, which is another tool that many of the Small Grants Fund projects use, and it's designed to do field monitoring, so that users can download and access the deforestation and fire alerts in the field without internet connection. That an app enables users to create customized questionnaires and be able to take photos and document what they're observing in terms of the causes of deforestation that the alerts are indicating. So all of those reports and materials are also private to the user. So again, creating a login and password, only people who have access to that login and password can see the results of that, those reports. So yes, so security is very, very important. So we make the global data available, but then it's up to you all, to organizations who are using that data, then to combine that with information that about the areas that you're working in. And that sort of ingredient of combining the global data with the, your local knowledge and understanding and documentation about what's going on is really, both, two pieces of the ingredients that make this kind of data into action, into impact of reducing deforestation successful.
Thanks, Jessica. We also have a two-part question. The first part is, I learned about the Small Grants Fund application 2023 Global Forest Watch. I want to ask is it possible for organizations participating in these small grants not to have a legal entity or legality, but have a good financial structure, good reporting, and other clear structures? I'll hand this one over to Ali.
Sure. So as we mentioned before, in order to be eligible, your organization must be legally constituted as a nonprofit and non-governmental organization. So if that doesn't align with the status of your organization, then unfortunately you wouldn't be eligible for the Small Grants Fund. So hopefully that answers your question there.
Thanks, Ali. We'll just take a few more questions. So we have another one related to more about the alerts. They want to know if this deforestation is detected by satellites worldwide. I'll hand this over to Jessica, I guess.
Yes, so it depends a little bit on the data set. The tree cover loss data set produced by the University of Maryland that Isabella showed is global. So both for tropical and northern forests, so boreal, temporal. However, the majority of the deforestation, or actually all of the deforestation alert systems, are available only in the tropics, and some of those even have reduced geographies. So the GLAD S2 deforestation alerts, for example, are only available currently in the Amazon basin. If you'd like more information about geographic coverage, as well as frequency, sources of information, cautions or caveats about their use, you can go to the there's a letter I icon, it's like I for information, next to the name of the data layer on either the Global Forest Watch map or the dashboard, and it will provide all of that information. But if you have any further questions ever about the data, please feel free to send us an email, and we can also answer further questions.
Thanks, Jessica. We'll take just a couple more questions I see coming in. We have someone from Denmark. They would like to ask if We can please tell them a little bit more information about the formal requirements that organizations should comply with if granted support from the Small Grants Fund in terms of project and financial reporting, should activities and or costs be subjected to a formal audit. Thank you very much. Allie, would you like to take this one on?
Sure. So as for reporting requirements, so each grantee is required to submit on a quarterly basis a narrative report and a financial report. And then at the end of your project, you will also submit a final narrative report that covers the full period of your project. Those are the two pieces that are required for every grantee, but depending on the results of your organizational risk assessment, you may be required to complete additional reporting requirements, such as submitting timesheets, transaction level detail, completing an audit at the end of your project, things like that. So it's possible, depending on the results of the organizational risk assessment, that you may have additional reporting requirements. But just the narrative and financial reports are the ones that are required for everyone.
Thanks, Allie. We'll take one last question. Well, two more we'll squeeze in. Does GFW Small Grants Fund apply to an individual in Africa as part of the priority area of Global Forest Watch? Allie, would you like to take that one on?
Sure. So as we mentioned before, to be eligible for the Small Grants Fund, you must be a nonprofit and non-governmental organization. So not an individual. We would not be able to grant to you, but as Jessica had discussed a little bit before with the Tech Fellowship, that is open to individuals, but that program is currently on hold. But if you are an individual who is interested in the Tech Fellowship program, please send an email to gfwfund@wri.org, and we are happy to add you to our mailing list to be notified if and when we are accepting applications for the Tech Fellowship again.
Thanks, Allie. We also have a question regarding there's an emerging global forest related issue, which is deforestation, the planting of trees where they ecologically and historically don't belong. In Mexico, afforestation takes place in native grasslands, even in protected areas, at the expense not only of endemic and endangered biodiversity, but also of water and carbon ecosystem services. Mexico is not the exception. Could this grant support either research and or removal of trees of afforested native grasslands? Jessica, would you like to take this one on?
Sure, happy to. And I know there was another question about projects, if it's possible for projects to support planting of trees. So yes, thank you for the question. Of course, that's a very, very important issue and one that's very important to WRI. And WRI actually has a forest restoration program and an office in Mexico that works on restoration. So I encourage you to go to the WRI website and look at information about what the restoration program does. There's some contact information there. You can also, of course, send us an email and we'll put you in touch with someone. But the scope of the Global Forest Watch Small Grants Fund is particularly around using this forest change data in order to improve forest monitoring and management and reduce deforestation. So there are really 3 areas of focus that we're looking for. And this, of course, is in the guideline for applicants. Projects that are using deforestation early warning systems and high resolution imagery to identify, verify, investigate, and act upon these alerts. Organizations that are working on supporting deforestation-free supply chains by using GFW tools to monitor and manage the boundaries of commodity producing areas, and using Global Forest Watch tools to inform sustainable land use planning and management.
Thanks, Jessica. We'll have time for 2 more questions. We have one regarding the application. Should we have the SurveyMonkey account to have the templates, or is there a template on another platform? Allie, could you address this one?
Sure. So the templates for the budget and the log frame are only available on the SurveyMonkey Apply platform. So you will need to set up an account and start an application. And then once you do that, you'll be able to view the budget and log frame tasks and download the templates there.
Thanks, Allie. And thank you everyone for your questions. If there are any other questions that you may have that we didn't have time for during this Q&A, please email us at gfwfund@deberry.org and we'd be happy to answer your questions. I'll hand over to Allie with some closing remarks and what's coming up on GFW.
Thanks, Isabella. So just a few notes before we close out the webinar here. So first is immediately after you exit this webinar, you will have the opportunity to complete a brief survey. And if you're able, we would greatly appreciate you filling out the survey to share your feedback on this webinar. As we mentioned before, we will also be sending a recording of this webinar in the coming weeks, and it will be available on the Small Grants Fund webpage as well, if you would like to go back and rewatch. And third, just a reminder that applications are due on August 1st, so we look forward to reviewing your applications. And finally, if you would like to learn more about deforestation alerts, we are also holding office hours on June 28th. And if you are interested in attending, please reach out to Isabella, and we have her email here on the screen. And with that, thank you again for joining us for this webinar, and we hope you have a great day or evening.